He was only supposed to be the punchline of a cruel joke. A teacher, trying to make the class laugh, pointed to the black student and gave him a math problem far beyond his grade level, an impossible challenge meant to embarrass him. The room waited for him to fail. But what unfolded next wasn't just about numbers on a board. It was about dignity, injustice, and a truth no one expected to see that day. Could a single problem expose more than just math, but the hidden bias inside that classroom? It was supposed to be a normal school day. For Marcus, a quiet, hard-working black student, the classroom was usually a place where he kept his head down and focused on doing his best. He wasn't the loudest, he wasn't the class clown. He was just a kid who believed that if he worked hard, he could prove himself. But in a school where whispers and stares often reminded him he was different, fitting in was never easy. Still, Marcus carried a quiet determination. What he didn't realize that morning, as he sharpened his pencil and opened his notebook, was that the very teacher meant to guide him would soon turn him into the center of a cruel lesson. The classroom buzzed with low chatter, pencils scratching across paper, when the teacher suddenly stopped the lesson and smirked. His eyes scanned the room before landing on Marcus. "Why don't you give this one a try?" he said, scribbling an advanced algebra equation across the board, something far beyond what their grade had even covered. The room went quiet. Everyone knew this wasn't a real question. It was a setup, a joke, and Marcus was supposed to be the punchline. The students exchanged glances, some stifling laughter, others leaning forward to watch. The silence carried a weight Marcus felt pressing down on him. He knew the equation wasn't fair. He knew it wasn't meant for him to solve. It was meant to expose him, to remind everyone in that room where they believed he belonged. Not ahead, not capable, just another target. But something inside him shifted. His palms were sweaty, his heart pounding, yet his legs carried him toward the board. Each step felt heavier, like walking into a storm. He gripped the chalk, the teacher's smirk widening as if already celebrating his humiliation. The air grew thick with expectation. Marcus was supposed to fail. The numbers on the board looked impossible at first, blurring together under the heat of dozens of staring eyes. Whispers started to rise from the back of the class, laughter bubbling just under the surface. "He'll never get it," someone muttered. Marcus clenched the chalk tighter, his knuckles white. But then he remembered. A book he had borrowed from the library weeks earlier, a chapter he'd read out of curiosity, far beyond the assigned material. Slowly, carefully, the pieces began to connect. His mind raced, not with fear anymore, but with determination. He started writing. At first, the room giggled at his hesitation, but as the equations took shape, the laughter faltered. Line by line, Marcus worked through the problem, his voice silent, but his resolve louder than anything in that room. The smirk on the teacher's face faded into a frown, confusion replacing amusement. The classroom shifted from laughter to stunned silence. Students leaned in, their eyes widening, the chalk squeaking as Marcus filled the board with his solution. He wasn't just answering a question, he was rewriting the expectations that had been forced on him. And then he stopped, dropped the chalk, and stepped back. Every eye was fixed on the board. The problem solved perfectly. For a moment, the room didn't move. The air was frozen, heavy, waiting. And then a single sound broke through. The sharp intake of breath from the teacher who had set the trap. But what happened next was something Marcus never could have prepared for. The board was filled with numbers, every line of Marcus's work standing in defiance of the trap that had been set for him. The class sat in stunned silence, but the teacher's face darkened. Instead of pride, there was anger. Instead of acknowledgement, there was disbelief. "That's enough," the teacher snapped, his voice sharp, cutting through the silence. He erased part of Marcus's work with a quick swipe of his hand, smudging chalk across the board. You copied this from somewhere. There's no way you solved it yourself. The words hung heavy in the air. Gasps rippled across the room. Marcus's heart sank. He had done everything right, proved what no one believed he could, but still, it wasn't enough. His victory was being stolen in front of his classmates, transformed into another accusation. Students shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Some looked at Marcus with awe, others with confusion, but none dared to speak. The room felt colder now, the silence more suffocating. Marcus wanted to protest, to defend himself, but the lump in his throat held him back. The teacher's tone was final, almost mocking. "Sit down. Don't waste our time." Marcus walked back to his desk, each step heavier than the last. His classmates' eyes followed him, some filled with admiration, others with pity. The triumph he had fought for slipped through his fingers, replaced by the familiar sting of being doubted, dismissed, and silenced. But even as he sat down, his mind burned. He knew what he had done. He knew the truth. And deep down, so did everyone else who watched it unfold. This moment wasn't just about math anymore. It was about a system that refused to see his worth, no matter how brightly it shone. And in that silence, one question lingered in every corner of that classroom. If even proof wasn't enough, what would it take for them to finally see him? When the bell rang, the classroom emptied in silence. Marcus packed his books slowly, the chalk dust still lingering in the air, a reminder of what had been taken from him. He had done the impossible, yet it was erased, denied, dismissed. Walking home that day, the weight of it pressed heavier than his backpack. The realization that no matter how hard he worked, there would always be those waiting to tear him down, not because of his ability, but because of his skin. But here's the truth. Everyone in that classroom saw what happened. They saw the solution, they saw the brilliance, they saw the injustice. And while the teacher tried to erase Marcus's achievement, he couldn't erase what was witnessed. The seed of that moment stayed with every student who sat in that room. Some would carry it as shame, others as inspiration. For Marcus, it became fuel. A reminder that he wasn't defined by those who doubted him, but by the strength to rise above them. Yet his story is more than a single classroom, more than one cruel moment. It's a reflection of a larger reality. How many times are black voices silenced, black brilliance overlooked, black lives dismissed as if they don't matter? This isn't just about a math problem. It's about a problem we all face, a society that still struggles to see beyond prejudice. So the question lingers. How many more Marcuses will it take before the world stops erasing them? And when the next one rises to the board, will we finally see them for who they are?